Imagine for a moment that you found something worth millions, but that same find completely destroyed your life plans. It seems contradictory, doesn't it? Because that's exactly what happened on a seemingly ordinary day in January 1848, when a simple carpenter changed the fate of an entire continent without even realizing it. James Marshall was just doing his job, building a mill for his boss, John Sutter, in the land we now know as California. It was routine work, nothing extraordinary. Until something glinted at the bottom of the American River. Tiny golden nuggets that, when tested with teeth and a hammer, turned out to be pure gold. But here's the first paradox of this story. Sutter, the landowner, was in a complete panic. While Marshall celebrated the discovery, Sutter saw his world crumbling. He had grand plans to create a farming empire, to build a prosperous community based on agriculture. Gold was the last thing he wanted to find on his land. Sutter swore his employees to secrecy. Imagine the irony, having to hide one of the greatest discoveries in American history. But some secrets are too heavy to carry, and this was one of them. Soon, rumors began to leak out, whispered in taverns, shared among neighbors, until they reached the ears of Samuel Brannan. Brannan was a merchant with an eye for opportunity. When he confirmed the rumor was true, he didn't rush to the mines as everyone would expect. No, he did something much smarter. He ran through the streets of San Francisco, waving a flask of gold and shouting, "Gold, gold, gold of the American River." It was March 1848, and Brannan had just lit the spark for the greatest gold rush in history. But here's the detail few know. Before he ran screaming into the streets, Brannan had bought up every mining supply available in the region. Shovels, picks, screens, tools, everything. He understood something the desperate crowd failed to see at the time. In a gold rush, those who truly get rich aren't those seeking the gold, but those selling the tools. In December 1848, when President James Polk officially confirmed to Congress that vast quantities of gold had been found in California, the world went crazy. Literally, overcrowded ships set sail from ports around the globe. Wagon caravans crossed entire continents. Farmers abandoned their crops, merchants abandoned their businesses, men left their families behind. These were the 49ers, the adventurers of 1849. 80,000 people arrived that year alone. Chinese crossed the Pacific, Chileans and Peruvians sailed north, Europeans crossed oceans. San Francisco, once a village of 1,000, exploded to 25,000 residents in just 2 years. California gained enough population to become a state in record time. But here's something fascinating. Most of these people had never mined anything in their lives. They were dreamers, driven by stories of egg-sized nuggets, of fortunes found in a single pan. The reality that awaited them would be quite different. In the mines, life was hard and absurdly expensive. A single egg cost $3. Imagine paying the equivalent of 50 reais for a single egg today. A pair of boots could cost a small fortune. Shortages were so great that entire ships, abandoned by sailors who fled to mine, were converted into floating hotels and warehouses in the ports. Mining camps were scenes of hope and despair. Men hunched over streams, sifting sediment for gleams, while tents formed transient towns. Violence was common, the law virtually non-existent. Vigilante committees took justice into their own hands. It was the Wild West we know from movies, but far more brutal and chaotic. And here's a cruel irony. Many miners, instead of getting rich, ended up in debt. They literally paid for meals with the gold dust they managed to dig up that day. The dream of getting rich quick turned into a nightmare of survival. While thousands killed themselves on the slopes, searching for nuggets, a few saw the true opportunity. Samuel Brannan, the man who announced the discovery, was making $5,000 a day selling tools. $5,000 a day in 1849. He became the first gold rush millionaire without ever having touched a pickaxe. Levi Strauss arrived by ship from Germany in 1853, not to prospect, but to sell textiles. He soon realized that the miners' clothing couldn't handle the hard work. He created sturdy canvas pants, which would later evolve into the jeans we know today. Levi's began by selling durable clothing to prospectors, not gold prospectors. Henry Wells and William Fargo founded a bank to store and transport the miners' valuables. Service providers, hoteliers, restaurant owners all profited more than the prospectors themselves. The real gold rush lay in supplying the miners, not competing with them. But it wasn't all prosperous businesses and dreams come true. The gold rush had a dark side that is rarely told. The Native American people of California suffered a true tragedy. With the invasion of their territories, entire tribes were driven from their ancestral lands. Violent clashes, famine, and disease decimated tens of thousands of indigenous people. Chinese immigrants, who arrived in large numbers, faced brutal discrimination. White Americans saw them as undesirable competition and pushed for laws against them. In 1852, California imposed a special tax on foreign miners, targeting mainly Chinese miners. The environment also paid a heavy price. Rivers were disturbed, entire forests felled, and hillsides destroyed by hydraulic mining. Mercury and other pollutants contaminated soils and waterways. California's natural resources were devastated by the extractive frenzy. Around 1855, gold production peaked and began to decline. The classic gold rush period was over. The easy mines were exhausted, and the remaining gold would require industrial techniques and massive investment. Many prospectors left with empty pockets, while others settled as farmers when the dust settled. But the legacy was solid. California had become a symbol of opportunity, a land where theoretically anyone could become rich overnight. The California dream was born there, paved with gold, sweat, and blood. The rush also taught valuable lessons about human nature and business. It showed that great historical events often enrich people in completely unexpected ways, and that the winners aren't always those everyone initially imagines. Do you know the greatest irony of the California gold rush? Gold was discovered the exact same year the region passed from Mexican to American rule. When Marshall found the nuggets, the American flag had barely been raised over the region. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed days later, in February 1848. The United States literally won the lottery without knowing it. Had the gold been discovered a year earlier, Mexico might never have ceded the region, or demanded a much higher price. But history loves ironies, and this was one of the greatest. The phenomenon became so prominent that it entered the business lexicon. To this day, we speak of selling shovels in the gold rush as a metaphor for businesses that profit by supplying tools rather than directly competing for the jackpot. The gold rush provided the classic example of this principle. The Californian discovery inspired other gold rushes around the world. In 1851, in Australia. In 1858, in Western Canada. Each new discovery triggered the same pattern: desperate crowds seeking a quick fortune, and a shrewd few growing rich by supplying what the crowds needed. Friedrich Engels, a collaborator of Karl Marx, was struck by California's economy that seems to arise from nowhere. A small Mexican province had become a regional economic powerhouse in just a few years. The gold extracted, valued at hundreds of millions of dollars at the time, bolstered American reserves and helped finance infrastructure projects. The first transcontinental railroad, completed in 1869, linked the prosperous Pacific with the American East. San Francisco flourished as a hub of international trade, connecting the American economy to Asia and Latin America. California became not only the Golden State but a symbol of American reinvention and opportunity. Now, let's return to that initial question. How can you find something worth millions, only to have it completely shatter your life plans? John Sutter experienced exactly that. The gold destroyed his dreams of a farming empire. His lands were invaded, his plans undone. Ironically, the finder became poor, while others became rich. But perhaps Sutter lost the battle to win the war from a historical perspective. His lands became the cradle of a transformation that shaped not only California, but the entire American trajectory. Unbeknownst to him, he was a catalyst for one of the most significant events of the 19th century. The true lesson of the gold rush lies not in the nuggets found in the rivers, but in the understanding that vision and opportunity are worth more than pure luck. Sam Brannan saw that fortune lay in selling tools. Levi Strauss realized that the future lay in durable clothing. Wells and Fargo understood that real money lay in storing and transporting other people's money. Today, when we look at California, land of technology, innovation, and dreams, we still see the echoes of that 1848 fever. Silicon Valley, Hollywood, the startups born in garages all carry the DNA of that audacious pursuit of extraordinary opportunities. The gold rush is over, but the spirit remains. Every new tech craze, every cryptocurrency boom, every rush for opportunities in emerging markets echoes the same patterns. Crowds chasing treasure, a few providing the tools, and a social transformation that far exceeds the original goals. So, the next time you see a crowd chasing something shiny, remember James Marshall and his accidental discovery, Sutter and his destroyed plans, Brannon and his shovels, Levi and his jeans. Ask yourself, where does the real opportunity lie? In the glitter everyone sees, or in the needs few see? After all, as the California Gold Rush taught us, treasure doesn't always go to those with the fever but to those who sell the thermometer. And that, perhaps, is the most valuable nugget of gold in this entire story.